Alright, 42 RLE. We're going to put a LS kit with the kit with clutches. Our 92047A or 92050 pump bushing, filter, the 3 overdrive steels, the transducer, cooler bypass valve, and the solenoid assembly, which you got over there, and the pressure solenoid, which has not showed up yet. So we'll get going on this one. Alright, in order to get this bushing out here, if it's not too wore out, I use a C6 band adjustment pin and 2 nuts backed up on each other. I cut these grooves in it to thread into the bushing, and then it uses the tip of this to push the bushing out. And we're going to take the snap ring out right here. A really sharp tip scribe works really well. May have to go put a better tip on this one. Take that bushing out. You can find the spot where the bushing is put together. It works a lot better. Splits it in half. It's not always easy to see it. And what I do is I got the little die grinder with the bit on it right down on the edge here where that bushing goes. There's a little lip that I found is on most of them, and I just take and I buzz that lip off. It don't take much. And I need at least on mine, I need a number 41 and a 38 bushing driver. I use the 41 because it fits right inside that groove, and I use it to start it in. This fits inside the bushing, and I use it to push it just past flush. There we go. Try that on the pump, make sure we're good. and change out our sealing rings here. That's annoying. I gotta get me a new fitting for that. And so we want our sealing rings to go together just like that, not like that. Give them a little tweak. You put some grease in the groove if you want to hold them in. Alright, I'm going to go press this bushing in. There are two different bushings for this shaft. There's two different shafts, and the early one and the late one. And the early one is smaller bushing in diameter. And believe it or not, I have seen it in the later model units, so don't be surprised if you don't come across one that has that. But it'll just drop in there. And take our O-rings out here. And pull our lip seal out. One of the two big lip seals, and this lip's going to face down. Just use the hook of your scribe to get up under there. Make sure that you haven't rolled that lip. And the blue one's going to go down at the bottom, and the red one's going to go in this second groove down here. Now different kits use different colored O-rings. Transtech's going to be red and blue. And you got this one, you're going to put the lip down also. Didn't take the old one out. Again, we're going to make sure our lip's not rolled. This is one of those instances where you can't have too much lube on here. You want to lube the crap out of it. We got the O-ring down here, and the lip seal in here. Get on this side. Make sure that this little filter orifice is in there. You got another big lip seal to lip down. we got the O-ring. Here again, lots of lube. I have seen these cracked, but the only one that I can remember off the top of my head. And I got this piston, and we're going to line the grooves up. Just going to push down. It should push in. I guess I ought to Alright, I should have lubed up the outside of this too. It helps. Yeah, let's see what we got. Here we go. And on the inside we got the smaller lip seal, the lips down also. Alright, here again we're going to make sure our lip's not rolled. Come on, get in there. Alright, go ahead and lube that up. And lube this up. Now don't say anywhere about doing this. There's feed holes right here above that blue O-ring, and there's feed holes in this drum. I just get them pretty much kind of lined up. It seems to help with getting this drum down in there. Kind of push down and turn, and you'll feel the splines line up. Alright, you need a pair of snap ring pliers like this. And ever since Snap-on redesigned these, this snap ring is much harder to put in. And if you'll look on here, there's a bevel on the snap ring. That bevel is going to face up. We want the openings of our snap ring to be in this area or this area up here where it's recessed. Make sure it's all the way up in the snap ring groove. And there's supposed to be a brass little screen that goes on here, and I've been running most of these here lately, and that thing's missing. There is a little orifice in there. Make sure that orifice is free, not plugged with anything. I haven't had any problems running it, and it don't say anywhere about this, but I take this notch and I line it up with one of these notches. Our return spring, balance piston. We're going going to put the opening of our snap ring either fully on top of here or straddling this notch. You don't want it halfway. You want it either fully there or fully here. And then if you look at the tip of your snap ring, you see how there's a taper to it. You want the shortest part of the taper up. Alright, getting that where that lip doesn't roll when you're trying to push that all down in there can be a little bit difficult sometimes. Alright, we want this bearing. It's got this lip on it. It's going to kind of pop into place. This hub. Alright. Usually in your kit, a lot of times the clutches will all be green. They're all the same thickness. When they're different colored like this, I put the browns in the underdrives, the greens in the overdrive, and then the other two, brown or tan, whatever, and I put those in the reverse. So this is how we're going to load these up. Your steels are 67 thousandths. There we go. And our clutches are 68. There's going to be 4 clutches in the bottom down here. We're going to use a flat snap ring, and it is, let go, 75 thousandths thickness. Goes in the bottom groove, and we got this pressure plate. This side's going to face up. It's usually 244 in thickness. And we want a tapered snap ring. And 90 thousandths. The taper goes up. There we go. And we're going to go press that one piece bushing into here. I can usually just get a screwdriver and get into there and get on the edge of that bushing, and it usually pushes it right out. Now, you see how the hole is offset? The short end's going to go down. You got to line this lube hole up with that lube hole right there. And when you're pushing it down, sometimes it'll push past the hole, so stop when the hole lines up. And if you don't get it 100%, don't worry about it. You can use a drill and open the hole up. There we go. Like I said, if you don't get the hole lined up, you find your drill bit the same size or a little bit smaller, and just get in there and open it up to where it's fully open. And make sure it turns nice and free. We want this washer. We want this washer. Do our overdrives, and clutches here again, and on our outside here on the bottom we got this wavy snap ring, and it is 63 thousandths. Put it on there and then just push it to the bottom of that groove. We got our pressure plate here. The step's going to face down. 344 thousandths. And we got flat snap ring, 70 thousandths. Come on, get down in the groove. Not to be difficult. Alright, just make sure we're all the way back in the groove. This washer goes on top. Tabs line up with the washer. Got our 2 tan clutches. Our pressure plate. Just line that up. Make sure we're down all the way down. That one fits pretty loose. Usually they're tighter than that. The snap ring 71 thousandths. You put that in there and pry up. This one's not going to stay up. But usually you want to pry this back up because it's going to have the clutches applied. This one's fitting loose. That's okay. And we got this bearing here. It's going to sit just like that on top of the drum. Got this clutch hub here. Has this 4-tab washer on top. Tab sits on top. This bearing here on there. Sun gear, this bearing goes on top. This planet's going to sit on there. Come on. There's our spacer. Our center support, it's got this tab. We got these openings on the piston. You can lube this up also. Usually this will push in, but lubing it up's not ever a bad idea. Just push that down in. Now this is going to allow us, when we're putting this in the case, that we can grab a hold of the bellwether spring like that and kind of guide it down. Alright, our pump. Ding the seal in just a little bit. It helps get it out. Alright, I'm going to press press this bushing in. And you see where the bushing is put together right there. You don't want that opening right here, and you don't want it in where you stake the bushing, so put it somewhere else. Now I put it a little bit lower than the edge here so that it's got some fluid that can get past that into the drain back hole. I'm going to stake it in place. Okay, come on. Put a little bit of 3M weather strip adhesive on there. It's very fine bead, you don't need a lot. Pump O-ring. Sometimes it can be very hard to see, but there's a square cut edge and then there's a beveled edge. You want the beveled edge down. And then if you look on the tips of your pump gears here, there's a slight bevel there. This one's got it on both sides, so normally. But you can also see where the mark of the converter hub's been riding. I want to face that down. Line our feed holes up. Get these 13 millimeters, 6 of them. Gonna need a narrow walled socket. Pull our snap ring, our sealing rings off. I've got a hook to them. You just kind of push in on one side, out on the other, and it'll pop off. Kind of walk it onto there and try not to go out too far because they will snap on you. You just kind of push them and do the opposite of what you did when you took them off. Just kind of push in and you pull around and it'll hook into place. Oop. Smack the camera. Alright, I'm going to have to change camera views more than likely. And change batteries. And then we'll get to doing the case. Alright, on your piston, you got actually your retainer. Some have a bleed hole, some don't. If it has a bleed hole in your piston retainer, your piston cannot have a bleed hole in it. But one of them has to have a bleed hole. Usually your molded pistons do not have a bleed hole. You got your openings here. You see them down there in the case. Kind of line that up best that you can. Now, I used to in certain kits, and I think it was Toledo kits, I had this retainer stiffener that you could put on here, and I would put this in every vehicle if I could. Problem is I can't find them anymore. I've had several people looking. I haven't seen them in the kits in forever. I've had them look up the patent numbers, and nobody can find it anywhere. And what did I do with them bolts? Had them bolts in my hand. Oh, here they are. Put them in the bottom of the tranny here. Usually in your kit you're going to get brand new 25 Torx bolts. Put them in here. Come on. The light didn't want to start. Here we go. And then do not put this in with the impact. Do this by hand. You do not want to strip these bolts out. If you do, you're screwed. Bring them down to snug, and then just give them a little tweak. A little lube on this situation. Your piston has a little tab. It's going to go right here. You're going to put the taper of the tips up again, and you're going to put the opening in between like that. Now I put mine in with the foot press. I got a 4L60 forward ring gear, and I use that to put down here, and then on your other style presses, I forget who made the things now, the little red foot presses. Usually you got this piece that came in it with it, and I use that to go across and push down. Alright. Put some lube on your bearing races for your Planet. And see if we can get a kind of a view of that. Need your other bearing. And I just use my bushing driver. Hold that in place. Kind of get the bearing started. Have to get the nut started on there. Two-inch socket. And don't forget to stake that down. I do it afterwards when I flip this over. Alright, put a little lube on your cooler bypass valve. Go ahead and stick that in. Our sun gear is still up in there. Put this Planet, make sure that bearing's still on there. Alright, our steels are 67 thousandths. We got the opening here, big opening down here is going to go at the bottom. This opening here is going to go at the top. Our clutches are usually the green ones, 71 thousandths. They're the thinner of the ones that you're going to get. There's going to be 5 of them. Bottom snap rings are going to be flat, and it's 40 thousandths. And the book says to put this opening at the 1 o'clock position. I've seen them everywhere. I've always put them and just like this because it's easier. It's just natural position for me to do it when I'm stacking it in there. Our pressure plate's going to go with this step down. It's 242, and we got, see, this big tab's got a notch on it, or knob on it. This one doesn't. This one goes up in the top up here. Our neck snap ring is tapered, and the book says never reuse this. I've reused plenty of them, 76 thousandths. The taper's going to go up. It also says to put this at the 1 o'clock position. Like I said, I've seen them everywhere, even from the factory. Alright, we got our other hub. Now these clutches are usually brown. It doesn't matter if they're green, just make sure they're the right thickness. And they're 81 thousandths. And our steels are 98. End with the steel on top, and you want to have a screwdriver pretty handy. It helps doing this next step. You can grab your piston, like I said before, with your bevel spring, kind of hold on to it, guide it into that notch down here. Grab it with your other hand, hold it up in there, and then just tap your center support down till you get right before you're all the way down, so that bevel spring doesn't come out of that notch. And your neck snap ring is flat, 67 thousandths. Here we go. Alright, now just start on one side and kind of knock it into place and just work my way around. The important thing is to make sure that it's all the way back in that groove. Because if it's not, as soon as it applies, it'll rip all them lugs right out of that case. Camera's kind of right in my way. Alright. Put our drum down. You'll know it's down when this rotor is in the center of your speed sensor home. Lube this up. Lube up the O-ring on your pump. Our pump gasket. Kind of a little recessed area there. Make sure your gasket's all the way flat. pump up and push it down. Oop, not much. Come on now. Alright, your pump bolts have washers on them. As long as they're still flat and look good, I reuse them. If they're all deformed, then I'll change them out. Make sure your shaft turns nice and free. Make sure your end plays okay. Make sure and get down in your bolt holes and make sure that all the silicone is out of the bottom of your holes, or it'll rip the threads right out of your case. And your accumulators have these on there, and they go the same way. Just give them a little tweak. Like I said, most of these, all the springs are the same. Every once in a great while you run across one that's got different colored springs. You just want to make sure and put them wherever they came out of, assuming nobody's been into it before. And if you need to replace one, just measure it and use the same or close to the same, and you should be okay. We'll measure these, let you know what they are. Inner ones fit really snug, and if you'll notice, anytime a spring goes inside of a spring, the coils need to be wrapped the opposite direction of the one that it's going into. Alright, our outer spring, inch 941, 900, 151, 685, 639, 127. Let's push that back down in there. Sometimes you get a new cap in your kit. It's not a bad idea to replace it. Sometimes you get a new snap ring in your kit. Not a bad idea to replace it. I don't I see a lot of them broke, but I've seen enough of them broke. Taper your tips up again. Pair of snap ring pliers. Make sure it's all the way in that groove. If it pops out, that piston's going to cock and you're going to have no low reverse. Push your pin back. This is how your spring goes. I try to keep it from popping off. If this is not lined up properly, just get in there and kind of move this around to where it's lined up so your pin goes in. And sit in there just like that. The top pin, the spring's going to go over it. They're going to give you a cut plug in the kit, get you a punch. You're going to drive that in behind that pin. Till it bottoms out, and then get you some kind of chisel and stake that in place. Alright, I'm going to go get the valve body ready. Alright, this little shuttle valve right here has a tendency to wear out, and I was for a long time putting the Sonax kit in here. I started having trouble with it, so I've since quit doing that. If I get one that keeps sticking, I just replace the valve body on it. So on here we got 4 check balls. One goes here. Now my book says that they eliminated this in 2007. This is a 2008 and it's still there. So if the hole is not in the plate right here for that, then it doesn't take it. And then on the bottom plate here, you got your thermal valve. It goes in here. They eliminated this at one point, and if the hole is not in the plate for this thing right here, then it doesn't take it. And let's see, we got 2 shorter bolts. One goes here, one goes here. And you got the stiffener plate. And got 2 regular size valve body bolts. Make sure your holes are lined up. Oh, actually, I guess I should put the filter in there. You can leave it out, but we'll go ahead and put it in. filter is going to go right there. And there is a ton of these bolts. Solenoid assembly goes on here. 4 bolts hold it on. Accumulator in here. Detent and then a stiffener. Got this rubber seal that goes on top. You want the domed part up. You know, a seal on this connector. Seal on this connector. You want the cone shaped up. You got lever seal. A lot of times I won't replace this. It looks in really good shape, but I won't replace it. Alright, come on. That up. Make sure that your linkage is in this little bracket right here. Go ahead and disconnect our pressure sensor. Go ahead and it doesn't matter to break it because we're changing it anyway. There's a little red tab right here. You want to push that back, and it allows you to release that tab. Transducer, and we just got to wait for our pressure sensor to show up. Once you get that clicked into place, push that red tab back down. It locks it in. Alright, we'll wait for our pressure sensor to show up, and then we'll be back. Alright, got our solenoid. Alright, change camera angles now. $10mm on the valve body. Make sure your O-ring's on your filter. 225 Torx. You may or may not get a pan gasket in your kit. Even if you get a pan gasket, use silicone. Throw that pan gasket away, it's just going to leak. Alright, let me go get my pan and my tail housing. Why this camera's bouncing so much? Alright, pan bolts, make sure your silicone is off the tips of your bolts also. Okay, change. Alright, right down here. This little 8mm bolt holds that pin for the park actuator in the case. Always put you a new clip on your output shaft. Every time you take this thing off, it's going to break that clip. Now I gotta go ahead and stake my nut before I forget. Put our output shaft on. Silicone for the tail housing. Alright, just drive your seal in flush. $15mm on the tail housing. Filter tube boot. Now the only thing we got left, since we don't have our speed sensors, that's the only thing I don't like about silicone. It makes a mess. The only thing we got left is the cooler lines here. It helps if you get a scribe with a hook on the end of it. I may have to move this around to where I can get to it. It's going to be a little difficult to try to put this on camera, and I'll probably only do one of them to show you, and then I'll do the other one off camera. But let's see if I can get in here. Got going on here. Okay, I already had it pushed off. Once you get it pushed off, you can just dig it out. And you can get new clips and O-rings in your kit. Just take the O-ring, kind of shove it up there towards the groove, and then take a scribe. Just kind of, sometimes it's easier than others. It used to be a lot easier when I was skinnier and had skinnier fingers. I could stick them up in there. Now that I'm fat, it's not as easy. Just kind of work it around. It doesn't help that it's at an odd angle here, trying to get this on the camera. There she's going. Oh, went past the groove. Short hook scribe, maybe pull that back. There we go. That went in. Alright, and you just take the clip and pop it on there. That's how you do that. I'll do the other one in a minute. And then if you had your speed sensors, there was 8mm bolts that go on those. Other than that, no, we need to check. Should have done this a long time ago. We need to check and make sure that our linkage will move, because I have had this get in a bind and not go up in that actuator and get stuck, and then you got to pull your pan back off. Other than that, we're done with this unit.